Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome to episode 1266. That's 1266 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Season 4 of Yes, We Are Open, the award-winning podcast from Moneris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. The Moment Lab. Brand marketing and strategy, PR, advertising, and production. You need the Moment Lab. And Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. Today, returning to Toronto Mic'd, is Ed the Sock. Ed, welcome back to Toronto Mic'd.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Been a long time. I missed you. You were actually episode 94, and now there's been, what, over 1,100 episodes since then.
Really? You've been doing this crap all that time? Stuck in this basement with that light that's supposed to simulate sunlight so you don't feel like you're in some kind of Turkish prison? You've been doing it that long, huh?
Oh, man, it's been 11 years, and I'm glad you're back. I'm just going to let the listenership know about your first appearance in case they want to go by and learn more about you, and then we're going to catch up. There's so many subjects I want to discuss with you, Ed, so thanks for being here.
All right, hit it.
Episode 94 is where you want to go to hear Ed's first appearance on Toronto Mic'd. And here's what I wrote at the time. Mike chats with Ed the Sock about Giangomeshi and Ford Nation. Okay, well, I don't even know which variant of Ford Nation that was. We'd have who knows, it might have been Rob. And Steven Kersner, whoever he is, about the storied career of Ed the Sock on Canadian television. We also had a pretty good dialogue, I wrote here. We talked about Triumph, the insult comic dog. Have you encountered Triumph since we chatted many years ago?
No, and fewer people are encountering Triumph.
Are you you've outlasted Triumph. You're going to have the last laugh.
Well, I started a good 10 years before Triumph. I'm still going, and I guess it is too. I
always preferred the OG Ed the Sock, for what it's worth.
Well, you know what? We don't even do the same thing, me and the dog puppet. I started out doing, like, just insult stuff, but I was, like, 87. I've evolved to talk about issues and you know, pop culture and stuff. He still does the shtick where he says, I poop on things. Like, whatever. Right. He hasn't grown.
It's not very clever. Right. You've matured, Ed. Now, do you ever get any flack? Do people, because I'll tell you this. I don't know if socks can cycle, okay, like on a bicycle. I saw Kermit the Frog.
You're not talking about a spin cycle, are you? You're not making a sock joke about laundry? Is that where you're going?
That's good. But because I bike a lot, occasionally somebody will like try to insult me by calling me like a lefty. Like you're a left-wing pinko or something.
Because you're on a bike.
Yeah, because I bike. This is actually true. Now, my question, that somehow cycling has been politicized, Ed, okay? But when your persona, I got some specific questions about some big things happening in the zeitgeist, but I'm curious about the Ed the Sock political persona, which seems to be very progressive. Are you getting a lot of insult from like convoy people calling you like a bleeding heart lefty or anything of that nature?
Yeah, but who gives a shit? I don't care. If I'm not getting flack from those morons, it means I'm not doing anything right. If you know, I have always supported critical thinking, and these people have abandoned critical thinking if they ever adopted it, they have abandoned it. In fact, they consider critical thinking to be some kind of left-wing plot. So, do I care? Yeah, I get these idiots, specifically on Twitter, and I argue with them, and I don't argue with them to change their mind, because these people are just idiots. There's any fact you give them, they will give you a non-fact in response that they claim is a fact. I had one guy who was taking advice about COVID from a Twitter account that was 911 ER doc. No name, no what kind of doctor, but he's a doctor. It says so in his Twitter name. It's like, yeah, are you really? The hell is the matter with you? And that person said that the 911 ER doc knew better than me because they're a doctor. Of what? That's very, very credible.
So what would account for this? Like, were they ever critical thinkers, or is it just that now?
No, I think critical thinking always bewitched them or drove them crazy. I think that they got tired of living in a world where they were always at a deficit. Because they were stupid and not critical thinkers, and I think they're glad to be in a world now where there's been a resurgence of people who say, "I know what's true." No, you don't. Your gut feeling is not knowledge. There's belief, and then there's knowledge. What are you going to choose? You're going to continue to believe what you want to believe, irrespective of facts, or are you going to adopt knowledge where you take knowledge of facts? There's a lot you can do with facts. There's a lot of perspective you can put on facts. There's spin you can put on facts, but just start with the facts. They hate the facts because they don't like anything that boxes them in from being assholes.
Do you try to enlighten them, though? Like, do you ever try to, like, just help them see the light, or
No.
they lost causes?
No, when I argue with them, it's so that I can give language to the people who think the same thing I do, but don't have the vocabulary to come back at these people. So I'm showing them, here's how you can deal with these jackasses. So my argument with them is never to change these idiots' minds, because it's not going to happen. It's more to let people know, here's how to handle them. Though I will say that on my all-night radio show on 94.9 The Rock, I had somebody called in and made a comment about liberal trans bullshit. And I stopped and I said, I have no problem with trans people. And I said, let them live their lives. It's not your business. And then I went on the air and said, people who think that I used to be some kind of crazy right-winger, you're not remembering correctly. And I don't like the term defended. I talked about my support for trans people and for them having the right to live their lives the way they want to live their lives, and it's not our fucking business. And then the guy responded in a text saying, I'm sorry, you're right.
Oh.
And he became like a constant fan of the radio show. He basically thought that was what my position would be. And then when I told him, no, that's not it, he was like, okay, it's really not mine either.
Well, it's good that he was open to reason. Like, that's
it's rare.
It's rare, but it's good to hear. Like, it gives me hope. Okay, you mentioned 94.9 The Rock. Great station. I've been to the studios by the airport. Give me some information, Ed, on your new overnight show there. Just give me the nuts and bolts of it, like when we can hear you, how it came about, all that good stuff.
Well, it came about because I was doing fill-ins with Rick Campanelli on another radio station, FM station in the Toronto area. Rick was the morning show co-host, and when his co-host would not be there, I would fill in with him. So I did a couple of fill-ins, and then filled in for the entire month of December of 2022, and did the New Year's countdown with him as well. And I discovered that radio has much the same feel as Muchmusic used to. There's a greater sense of freedom. There's a greater sense of community and connection. It just felt fun. It felt like, because I don't like TV now. I'm not interested in being in anything that is TV these days. It's just not my jam.
But is it also fair to say that TV might not be interested in your jam anymore?
Well, there was some interest by a network, and I didn't follow it up because I'm just not interested.
It just seems like TV right now is so risk averse. Like it's especially the basic, the over the air TV you're referring
Sure,
to.
but you think about all of the reboots and revisits and stuff that have gone on, especially in the States, to great success. Sometimes it seems like there's more being revisited and rebooted than there is being created.
You're right.
I never wore out my welcome with fans. When I finished Ed and Red's Night Party, it was because of new ownership. We were still winning our time slot, and I quit Muchmusic when I was at my most popular.
So that's true. You weren't fired from Muchmusic. You quit.
I quit. Yeah, I could see the iceberg coming.
You could see the iceberg coming. Okay, you got in at the right time, out at the right time. By the way, I take it Muchmusic, Ed, is where you befriended Rick the Temp, who you referred to as Rick Campanelli.
Yes, that is where we both started the same year. And neither one of us has aged visibly. So I was doing that radio show with him, and I decided I really liked radio. So I put the word out there that I was interested, and I was contacted by Doug Elliott, the program director at 94.9 The Rock.
Who once gave me a Wii?
He once gave you...
Sounds dirty.
What was that? What? You mean the video game system?
The Nintendo console, yes.
All right, yeah. Let's
did you
clarify
think I meant,
that.
Ed?
I don't know, but there's a lot of euphemisms in this world. So he contacted me and said, I got something in the offing that I think you would like. And he was working on it, developing, and then he took me out to lunch with a guy named Steve McCall. He's a sales director there.
I know him, he used to be at CFNY.
Yeah, and laid out this idea for an all-night show, and I immediately was on board because, first of all, I wasn't sleeping. I don't sleep at nights anyway.
Interesting.
And secondly, these are my people, these unsung heroes who are working all night so that the world can start again in the morning. And also they're more eccentrics. There's more personality. I remember the all-night shows on radio.
Yeah, they're the best.
And my first regular radio gig was on an all-night radio show as a recurring guest. John Oakley's show on back then it was CFRB.
Sure.
And so I have a real love for that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And
like Venus Flytrap, like I feel like that's a cool vibe, the all night show.
Yeah, I thought, and there was a time before David Letterman did his first late night show when people thought there's no audience at 12:30. And then they tried it and like, wow, there's an audience there. And I think there was people, radio is not the moneymaker it used to be. So a lot of corporations are trimming their sails, and they don't do overnight shows and haven't for years. They just run reruns they call the best of, or they run George Norrie talking about how aliens built the Parliament building or whatever the hell he talks about.
Right.
And this was an opportunity. There's an audience out there. They're working. And
so you're live.
I'm live.
You could take calls live.
I do take
like
calls
the good old
live.
days.
Yeah, exactly. I take calls live, and I'm not just like, it's not like call now. Caller 13 wins tickets to some concert.
Supertramp.
It's people can just call, and they just call and talk.
So I could call. Do you know the number off by heart, Ed?
Of course, it's 855-432-7625, which coincidentally spells sock.
Amazing. What is the hours that you're live on The Rock?
Midnight till 5 a.m.
Wow.
Currently, it is Tuesday. Well, I entered the building Tuesday. The show starts technically Wednesday at midnight, and I'm through technically Sunday at midnight. That may change to a Monday to Friday kind of thing. We're playing with it. It was still in the early days, but midnight till 5 a.m. And you would be surprised. Initially, I was like, well, from 3:30 till 5, you'll probably get nothing. No, it's busy. The night picks up as the time goes by. More and more people are getting in. Like around 3 o'clock, it starts to become nutty as far as all the calls.
And I would think. I would just imagine that, like, as word of mouth travels, that, at 3 a.m, since you're not sleeping, you can call this number and talk to Ed the Sock on the radio. Like, that sounds pretty damn exciting to me.
Well, interestingly,
do I need to get a life, Ed? What's going on here?
Well, yeah, that's not news. There's a lot of people who've called up very excited because they haven't followed me on social media,
right.
So they're very excited to hear. As far as they're concerned, I was dead, so they're excited to hear from me. And
well, socks go missing all the time.
Yeah, oh boy, we play music. Like
I was going to ask you. So you're playing the rock because this is the rock. Okay.
And I have to tell you, the other radio station where I was doing stuff, I hated the music.
Yeah,
it wasn't music.
But you're not saying that. I can say it's Z103.
Yeah, the music wasn't my style. It wasn't music. It was people on laptops making noises. That was what passed as music.
Right.
I understand there's a lot of people like that. It wasn't my feel. Whereas this rock stuff, we're talking classic rock and current rock.
Sure.
I enjoy listening to the music. I can keep the speaker up instead of turning it all the way down.
I'm with you. Like you want to hear some like Monster Truck or Sheepdogs or whatever. But this is one thing I've noticed, that now you have these prominent DJs that actually do gigs. So, we used to go see a gig or whatever. It was like a rock band or whatever, everyone playing their instruments, singing live. And now if you go see a DJ live, I've noticed they've got their MacBook and they're on the stage with their MacBook. They're literally just pressing play on their MacBook. Like,
I know. I
what
understand.
Did you pay?
I understand there must be some art to it because some are better than others.
Well, you had to make that, but you made it before the concert, and then you just played it from your laptop.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, they are people involved in the music business. They are not musicians. They're technicians.
Right.
And granted, you have to know when to blend one song into the other and which ones go together nicely, like, pairing wine with food. It's kind of like that. I'm sure that there is a skill there, but it's not a skill that appeals to me. It's and again, I'm of a certain vintage, but then again, there's a lot of people my age who like that kind of crap. So you know what? Good. Let there be places for them to have that. Not a problem. I haven't bought into the modern theory that things that aren't things that I love should be stomped out of existence.
Right.
I
turn the channel.
I remember, the thing I love about radio in the, you learned growing up with radio, you would have to listen to a song. It was okay. A song you hated, idiot DJs, commercials until they got to the song you loved.
Right.
So you realized you live in a world where other people exist and you have to be respectful of their interests and likes and needs in order till yours get dealt with. You understood that you weren't able to sort of customize your entire frickin' life like you can do now. And you'd be exposed to music that you wouldn't have thought you liked because you had to listen until they got to your song.
Right.
And so people were they understood compromise in the sense of civilization. Whereas now it's like, if I don't like it, it must not exist. Stomp it out. Burn it with fire.
You're 100% right. Young people today don't know what it's like to hear anything that they didn't purposefully seek out to play. Like everything's on demand. I want to hear this new Little Nas X song, and you play it and you hear it. Where we didn't get to choose what to hear, and we got a whole bunch of stuff, and we liked some of it, we hated some of it, but we persevered. Okay, we persevered, and we were introduced to a whole bunch of different genres and songs that weren't purposefully sought out.
Well, everything now, your music is curated by algorithms,
right?
By computers who are like, if you like this, here's another song almost exactly like that one. So you're not going to be introduced to something that's a departure that you might like and not realize you would like because it's just a computer spitting it. Like, I watched a funny video about some people who took Steven Seagal and put him in a John Wick trailer that they called John Thick. And it was hilarious because Steven Seagal now is too out of shape to stand up to fight. So he actually fights in a chair. The bad guys come up to him in a chair and he fights them in a chair. So I watched that, thought it was funny. And the algorithm decided I like Steven Seagal. So now I just keep getting over and over stuff about Steven Seagal. That is the thing about algorithms. They're not smart.
Right. No, they're not smart. Now, Rick the Temp, just one more line. It's all about Rick the Temp. Didn't you know that? I just had Rick the Temp over here to kick out the jams, and we were catching up. And he revealed to me that he is working with a PR company called the Moment Lab. So I just want to let you know, Ed, that the Moment Lab is there for you. They specialize in public relations. They have a team of experienced professionals who know how to craft stories that resonate with your audience and generate positive media coverage for a change, Ed. So they've got you covered, and I would be happy to introduce you to Matt and Jared at the Moment Lab. Again, they're working with Rick the Temp.
Well, that almost sounded like you wrote it and read it off a screen. That delivery.
The algorithm wrote that.
Yeah, an algorithm. Yeah, was that a chat AI that did that? Well, it's interesting because every time I try to deal with one of these companies that connect you with brands and so on, they stink. I've dealt with a couple, and they talk and they deliver nothing. And how can you not connect me with brands? I am as Canadian as beer.
Is it because you smoke?
I don't know. I mean, no, it's because they're lame. I mean, I am called a Canadian icon. I am motherhood. I am Canada. Right. How can you not connect me with brands that want to be connected with that? It's because they're freaking lazy and stupid. Because anyone can put out a shingle and say, I connect influencers and I do brand marketing. Yeah, show me who you've had success with. And they give you names. And now I've started to say, well, I want to contact them and ask them how the experience has been. Because now Rick has been very successful with this.
Right.
So maybe I'll call these...
the Moment Lab. I'm telling you...
who was it? Mick and Joey?
Jared and Matt at the Moment Lab. Good people. By the way, you mentioned earlier, you like to, you mentioned pairing wine with food with these DJs. And I'll just let you know, Ed, I think you are a Canadian institution, and I think you deserve the Order of Canada. And I know you love your beer, so I'm going to send you home with some fresh craft beer from Great Lakes Brewery. And Ed, because you love lasagna, I've got some lasagna for you from Palma Pasta.
I think you're confusing me with Garfield.
He did love his lasagna, and he hated Mondays. What do you think about Mondays, Ed?
Currently, Mondays are my day off. So
you love Mondays. Okay, so the Rock 94.9 is where we can now hear you overnights, and it sounds like your experience with Rick Campanelli on Z103 is what made you want to get into radio.
I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
94.9 is making me nervous because I've not dealt with a place that is that professional in years. Where management is actually professional and understands how to make programming. They're lulling me into a false sense of security. They got it because all I've dealt with for years are assholes who make everything adversarial. Everything's adversarial, and they're not supportive. Over the years, I've had
Who are these assholes? Are you naming names?
No,
no? It's in your book.
Yeah, it's out there. I started writing a book, but it didn't get anywhere. No arms. I always had to start doing things myself, like my own publicity, my own promos and stuff, because the stations either didn't do it or did crap. These guys are on the ball. They're like, no, they got a billboard up.
You know why? You know why? Because it's not a big cable company that owns that place. Like you're now dealing with a company that gives a shit about radio. If you're dealing with, and this is me talking, who never worked for any mainstream media company, but if Bell Media or Rogers owns this station, like really, where is their bread buttered? It's not radio. They just want to keep on to these licenses for some reason, but they don't actually care about the content.
Well, no, yeah, they do care because they care. I mean, they take great care as to who they put into their morning shows and stuff. But if you look at their morning shows of the big companies, it's here. Okay, you got the guy who's sort of the fathery type figure. You got the woman who's smarter than the guy, and then you've got the Joker character. Okay, and there's your morning show,
your tropes,
your morning zoo, coast to coast on corporate radio. Recently, a corporation did a big thing about how they were changing 3 of their station's morning shows.
Right,
and
of course.
You looked, it was just like musical chairs.
Yeah, well, they had a hiring freeze.
Well, it's like, okay, we're moving from here to here, this person from here to here, and this person from here to here. But you look at the package, and it's the same thing. The fatherly type, the authoritative guy, the idiot, the Joker, and then the woman who's smarter than both of them.
Right. No, you're 100% right. And the other move that is seeped into radio is we're just going to have this morning show in another market. That's the big move now. And you might have a show in like 10 markets across the country.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's that. Now, when we launched the all-night show, the first caller was from L.A.
Wow.
We get calls regularly from across the U.S., across Canada, and Australia. So there's people listening, and it's not an all-night show in Australia. You know, it's like a morning show. And in L.A., we're on in prime time because, you know, it's midnight is 9 p.m. there.
Yeah.
But we got people all over the globe practically, but definitely across Canada and the U.S. And so it's not just a Toronto GTA phenomenon. There's nobody speaking to these people. There's nobody there treating them like they deserve to have the same kind of live interaction that people get during the day.
Fascinating. Okay, I want to get back to the show on the Rock because that's what's happening now. I do want to go back and ask you about something that's kind of been in the zeitgeist lately because I had on this very program, I had on a gentleman named Sean Menard. Have you heard of this gentleman?
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Okay. Well, you can obviously say what you will, but he directed a documentary called 299 Queen Street. But I follow you, Ed, on social media, and I know you're not, you know, tickled pink about all this. Why don't you express for us all, like, what is it? What's concerned you about the documentary 299, and why were you not asked to participate in this love letter to Muchmusic?
Well, with your second question, you've answered the first part. It's not that my ego needs to be stroked, all right? It's just that I am so associated with the heydays of Muchmusic. Like, I may as well have been the avatar for Muchmusic. I was there for 14 years, all right? People grew up watching me. People associate me with Muchmusic. How do you do a freaking documentary about Muchmusic where you talk to on-air people, you talk to some of the VJs.
Like
Rick and Bill and some others, but you don't talk to me. Like, how do you not talk to me? It's a deliberate step. You have to definitely say, I will not talk to Ed because I was so prominent. That had to be a decision. And the thing is, when I first heard about this documentary, I sent this person a email saying, hey, this sounds like a great idea. I'd love, if you need anything, I've got lots of footage that Much doesn't have. And you know, I'd like to participate. And no answer whatsoever.
Not even a courtesy reply.
Nothing.
Oh.
When I did hear from him was after I went online and said, screw this guy and screw this documentary. Like, people can see it if they want. I'm not telling people not to see it. But when I went on social media and people were like, this is bullshit. How can you do this documentary and not have Ed's input on the whole thing? Then I get this email from the Joker. And in the email, first of all, is my original email in this email chain, my original email. Then one of his assistants on the day that I sent it, sending it to him saying, please respond to this. And he didn't. And then in his email, he indicated that he had contacted other VJs who were not asked to comment proactively, but didn't contact me. And he's like, I don't want to have to type it all. Call me and we'll have a conversation. I'm like, yeah, sure, so that you can make out I said whatever you want to say that I said, as opposed to committing it to text. So I never bothered responding to the guy. And I know somebody who saw the documentary.
Okay.
And said that it's not very good. That it's not really fully indicative of the Muchmusic experience or what Muchmusic was. That it's not the greatest. Now, this is one person's review. Sure. I don't know. If you see it...
Would you see it? Like, when this streams on the service maybe you already pay for, would you, at the SOC, would you watch this 299 Queen just so you could have an informed...
No,
opinion?
What can he tell me about Muchmusic that I don't already know? What can I learn from this documentary that I lived and breathed that place? How can he tell me, how can he illuminate it for me? It's not possible. 14 years I was there. What is he going to tell me in his little documentary that I don't already know?
Now, I'm sorry they didn't ask you to participate. I wish you were a part of this, but there are a couple of big names I will just shout out who are also not involved in the documentary that I found were glaring omissions. So, because, you know, I actually am one of the last people who might give a shit about all this. So my perspective's important here, Ed. But the two guys who were not a part of this documentary...
Nardwuar and Master T?
Oh, Master T is one. So Master T, Tony Young, who's also an FOTM, not part of this. But Terry David Mulligan's not a part of this. And I was chatting with him about it, and he's like, they never fucking care about the West Coast. Like, it's all Toronto, Toronto, Toronto. But then again, Ed the Sock, you are Toronto, 299 Queen, and you're not a part of it. So I don't know. I'm not here to make
It's a crime,
excuses.
by the way, that Master T isn't part of it. Yeah. Master T played a huge role in bringing urban music, black artists, to attention in Canada. He broke down doors and brought in hip hop dominates now. He was the one who kept knocking on, saying, "You got to play this music. You got to play this music." And the white people were like, "No, we're not gonna play that music." And then, but he kept pushing. And he introduced a lot of artists on his shows, Extendamix and Demix. And through his DJ stuff, he introduced a lot of black artists and gave them a platform when no one else would. And the fact that somebody that consequential to the Canadian music scene wasn't asked to comment, what the hell kind of documentary is this?
Well said, Ed. No, well said. When this does, I'm not going to go buy tickets to Roy Thompson Hall to see this thing.
Well, that's the other thing. Shouldn't he be offering VJs and stuff free tickets to this thing?
Well, probably he might have done it, but then you told him to fuck off, and then he probably said, "I'm not giving this sock a ticket."
I don't know. I got contacted by people saying, "Are you going?" Because I'm not going. I can't afford to pay that kind of price.
It's expensive, right? Like, I will say,
$200 to see a movie? Are you crazy?
Especially because your review, your friend or person who
that's just one person's review.
Yeah,
somebody might see it and love it.
I should say I haven't seen it, and I'm just here to capture the.
And if you're just
stories.
a person who never worked in much music, you'll not notice the deficits. You'll not notice what's missing. Right. So. Another reason why I'm not gonna watch it. I don't need to watch it. It was my life.
You lived it.
Yeah.
You can just close your eyes at night, Ed, and you can revisit Much Music.
Sometimes I do, and it's a nightmare.
So you have no regrets when you quit, because you said you saw the writing on the wall and you knew it was coming. You have no regrets that you left Much Music.
Well, no. The thing is, when I left, it was supposed to be more of a sabbatical, because there was somebody there who I thought was a stupid and evil person who I had to deal with, and I received indications that person would be replaced, because there were many complaints about this stupid and evil person. And then I would come back when stupid and evil person wasn't there anymore. But then the company went up for sale. And when the companies go up for sale, you don't replace senior management, because it doesn't look good to the street. Right. So that person never left, and I never came back. They did try to bring me back. I almost went back. Years later, I was contacted. They said, we need what you bring to the channel. And it was very close to happening. And then they flipped formats to this comedy thing. And I had a meeting, and I said, having Ed there when you're doing this flip will give it a sort of stamp of approval for people who were upset about the change. And Ed does comedy, so it works. Yeah. And, their attitude was, no, because they'll see you, and all they'll think about is how much better Much Music used to be. And they're not wrong. Unlike the people in Canadian television back in the day after I left Much and City, who said, yeah, we know you're really popular, but when people see you, they're going to think about City TV or Much Music, and they're going to change the channel. I'm like, what fucking world do you live on where that ever happens? You see in the States, right, they will grab a person who was popular on one show.
Like David Letterman, right? Like, you didn't David see him and go, I'm going to NBC.
911, a big hit on Fox, is going over to ABC. ABC doesn't say, well, people are going to think about Fox, so we can't change the... No, idiot. They're tuning in to watch me. They're not going to go to the channel where I am not. This is part of the problem with Canadian broadcasting. No fucking idea how broadcasting works.
I will say, when I would see you on City TV, I instantly went back to Cable 10, because that's where
That's where you first saw me. Like, this is not... Do you not understand how audiences work? Now, these people who I dealt with, they're many generations of management ago. So this doesn't apply.
Right.
I've not had this experience with people who are currently in charge of this stuff.
Right.
So they get, they're off the hook from my criticism for that. And let's face it, the business has changed, and the ability to spend money on smaller projects that feel more personal, it's very difficult. They put their money into shows that they can sell internationally. Otherwise, they can't really afford to make the shows. And I get that. I get those economics, and that I understand that. That makes sense. Nonetheless.
Yeah. Oh, I was waiting. Nonetheless, I see. That's the end of the sentence. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yes,
that's why I'm not an award-winning host. ... Like Al Grego, who hosts Yes, We Are Open. I have a wireless speaker for you, Ed, courtesy of Moneris, where you can listen to season 4 of Yes, We Are Open, hosted by Al Grego. And he will inspire you because he's collecting stories from small business owners across the country for entrepreneurs like yourself, Ed. So that's
what's
the
it called?
Speaker is called Yes, We Are Open. It's
all
season
right.
4.
And where can I find it?
Wherever you find your podcast.
All
Yes,
right.
We're open.
Did I help out there?
You've earned
I earned my wireless speaker.
And you've earned the Ridley Funeral Home flashlight, because I don't want you tripping in the dark.
But okay, I understand the connection with the podcast and the speaker. What is the connection with the funeral home and the flashlight? Is this in case I'm mistakenly pronounced dead and I'm stuck in a coffin, in a dark coffin? I'll have a flashlight as my oxygen runs out? Is that what this is about?
Now I'm envisioning like the world's smallest coffin for Ed. Ed, I hope you live forever. I have no sense of your age. You mentioned that you and Rick have not aged a day since you guys were on Much Music. Is this a secret? Am I allowed to ask, how old is Ed the Sock?
You can ask.
Secret? I just did.
Yeah, you can ask.
How old is Ed the Sock?
You can ask.
Great question.
I am eternal.
Yeah. You're eternal. I love it.
I am eternal.
Like a vampire. Okay.
I am the Alpha and the Omega.
I think you're great. That's why you're here for your third. Well, no, Ed's second appearance. This is your second appearance. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Is it my second? Okay.
Ed's. There's a guy named Steve who's been here a few times, but this is the second appearance for Ed. Jason from Sudbury heard you were coming back to Toronto, Mike, and he says, you need to ask Ed about the time that some band was going to sue him or Much because they were offended by what Ed said about them.
That never happened.
Really?
No.
Jason, come on.
That never happened. I mean, okay, tall tales.
Maybe a Fromage or something?
No, I mean, Fromage, the artists would thank us for putting them in it. It was not a problem.
All of them? There wasn't any artist, any band. There was a very attractive redheaded individual. She hinted at, like, and this is not related to the Jason story, or maybe it is, but that there might have been a band that you criticized during a Fromage episode for being cheesy, and maybe the PR people or the representative of this band did not take kindly to this, and maybe they went to Much Music and complained on some level. Is that anything that might be real?
I'm not sure. Like, that was a blur. The whole, it was 14 years. It's hard to remember.
Oh, the band was Blur. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the band was Blur. No, there were complaints, not about Fromage, though. There were complaints, Snow, the rapper Snow.
I was in a movie theater with Snow less than a year ago. Not doing anything like
what was this? The Rex Theater?
Shout out to Vandits, which was directed by Stu Stone, who had a Cable 10 show with Cam Gordon. And
I know Stu Stone.
Yeah.
He had his Cable 10 show at the same station where I started my Cable 10 show, which is the same station.
Is that Newtonbrook?
Newton.
Why do I think it's
Cable,
Newtonbrook?
Because Newtonbrook is a school in the neighborhood.
Okay. Newton. Okay.
Newton Cable, and the same place.
Is this where Mike Wilner started too?
Mike Wilner started there at the same. He was there roughly the same time as me, and before me was Steve Paikin
and Michael Landsberg.
Yep.
Oh my goodness!
We all came from this one tiny butthole of a cable station, and find me people who came from other bigger cable stations who went on to do anything other than Richard Krause.
Okay,
Shout out to Richard Krause.
He's also good FOTM. Love that guy. But that is quite the list, right? Because Michael Landsberg, 25 years on TSN. Now he's with Sick Not Weak and helping people. And Paikin hosting the agenda on TVO. We get to see his salary on the Sunshine List every year. Mike Wilner now with the Toronto Star, who is calling Jays games and working for Rogers for many, many, many years. The great Stu Stone directing movies with his brother-in-law Adam Rodness. whatever happened to Cam Gordon, I'll never know. But these are big names, and I'm going to ask you, so you're talking about Cable 10. I had Mark Weisblad here yesterday, and we go over like media zeitgeist.
Mark's still alive.
Mark?
Awesome. I haven't heard that name in ages. Mark is a very interesting individual.
That's exactly
and
how I describe him.
I say that in a positive way.
Yeah, I called him a unicorn. I think that's meant complimentary.
You call him a eunuch?
So he and I were just talking about how there's not that anyone gives a shit, but there's a change at Virgin 99.9 in the mornings and being poached from Kiss 92.5. None of these stations are as cool as The Rock, okay? But being poached from 92.5 is a guy named Darren Jones. And of course,
Darren Jones.
So
he came from the same cable station.
There you go. So he and Mr. Mo had a show called Buzz.
Yeah.
And I know this might be, again, Ed, you're a big boy, but if it's a sore point, you can move on. But I feel like there was some negativity in the air surrounding you and Buzz. Am I out to lunch?
It wasn't me, but it was my manager, Kersner, who created that show and discovered Darren Jones.
Do you like that guy, Kersner?
He's fine.
Okay.
We don't talk much. Discovered Darren Jones at a comedy club when he was like 16, and brought Darren Jones into that show, and they then he let them continue to do the show after he left Rogers, and then they tried to screw him when they took it to the Comedy Network.
Interesting. See, this is all like such a small world.
I don't care that Darren's doing well. Actually, that's a lie. I don't want him to do well.
What do you want to do worse? Do you want the 299 Queen Street doc to tank more, or for Darren Jones to have less success on the radio?
I don't wish either of those things, quite frankly, because I'm not the kind of person who says, in order for me to win, everyone must lose. If that documentary does well and people enjoy it, fine. Darren is finding his success in radio. Good for him. Darren was always a talent, quick-witted guy. So I don't wish bad things on most people. I was going to say anybody, but I don't wish bad things on most people.
Okay, so we're winding down now. I want to get back to the Rock 94.9, but do you have an update on the lot of noise that you made, Ed, about a Muchmusic alternative on YouTube? I know Muchmusic itself has created some Muchmusic alternative on TikTok. I'm too old to know anything more about that, but is there an update on your alternative?
It was New Music Nation.
Right.
And really got walloped by the pandemic because the idea was to do stuff on the street with people and, go in to places. And you couldn't do that during the pandemic. And also, a lot of people who said they were keen, didn't wind up delivering. So it kind of is, right now, it's in a chrysalis state. And will be coming back as New Music Now. And it's just started a Roku channel for New Music Now as well. So that'll be back. It has the feel of Muchmusic, but it focuses on independent artists and their videos because there's so many great videos and great artists out there that nobody ever hears from. And there's actually, I've had a conversation with some notable documentary makers about doing a documentary about me.
Stu Stone?
No, I haven't. No, it's not Stu. Is he a documentarian now?
He made one called Jack of All Trades. It was his dad ran Sluggers. Do you remember this North York's memorabilia store?
Oh yeah, the sports memorabilia place.
So he did a documentary about Sluggers and baseball trading cards that had this apex in like the early 90s, late 80s or whatever. And it's quite a good doc. It ran on Netflix for a while.
Listen, I sent Stu Stone an email and he didn't get back to me.
Bullshit.
He didn't get back to me.
I'll fix that.
So screw him.
But he gets a screw him and the other guy gets a fuck him. There's a big difference.
There's a big difference. I have a soft spot for Stu. Oh, maybe the thing Leanna was talking about was U2 with Bono.
Okay.
Because we did a special called Smartass, the Sock Report.
Yeah.
And part of what we did was a segment, Leanna researched this one really well, showing a correlation between Bono's very noisy advocacy for the third world, correlating with him releasing a product. So there was that there was a correlation. So he got a lot of free media for his carping to, he carped to governments about giving more of their tax dollars to the third world. And then when Ireland changed its tax laws so that artists had to pay taxes, he moved his stuff out of Ireland,
to
so he
Amsterdam
didn't have to pay taxes. So shut up. But we did this thing, and it was fairly persuasive. And that was pretty much the final straw for why we left Muchmusic.
Okay, I'm glad you remembered, Ed, because that was going to eat at me there. I wanted to... By the way, are you willing to name the stupid and evil person?
No. The name would mean nothing to most people, and the people to whom it would mean something already know who I'm talking about.
Gotcha. Okay.
I will say it was not Denise Donlin.
Good, because she's an FOTM, and
it's not. It wasn't Dave Kynes,
who's also an FOTM. He actually sent me a box of stuff from Muchmusic. I guess he was...
he's been clearing out his place.
In fact, around the corner on your way to the washroom, Ed, you're going to see a Muchmusic, a Punch Much poster, that picture that came from...
Never sent me anything.
I sound like this is not... I thought it was the Rick the Temp show. It's actually the Stu Stone show, because David Kynes works at Hollywood Suites, and Hollywood Suites financed...
Hollywood Suite. Hollywood Suite sounds like it's a hotel.
They financed the movie that I was watching when Snow was there. By the way, did you finish the Snow story?
No.
I feel like, okay, finish the Snow story, and then we're going to get you back to The Rock, and then we're going to take a picture by the tree.
I made some kind of joke about him having been a prison bitch in jail when he was in jail.
Right.
I mean, it was a long time ago. Not necessarily a joke I'd make today, but you raise your awareness over the years.
Right.
And prison rape jokes used to be hilarious, and now you realize, no, it's actually rape. It's not actually funny.
Right.
But apparently his mother was watching and misheard what I said, and got very upset and started crying. So Snow was coming down to the station to beat me up, and he told his manager, and his manager called Muchmusic, who warned me that it was happening, and his manager went down to Much to intercept him, to stop him from coming in. I didn't know about this till a long time afterwards, so it never happened. He didn't lick my boom boom down. And the other one time I made fun of Mariah Carey on the air.
Yeah.
And the record company, her management or somebody complained, and then we got Denise Donlin, I think it was, got a phone call from Tommy Mottola,
right, who was married to her,
who was divorced from her at this time, and he said it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen, and he wanted a copy of it. And then there was the time, I believe it was Mariah Carey, it was either Mariah Carey or J-Lo, where I made a comment about how big the entourage they were bringing in was, and I said that they needed to have every square inch of their ass kissed at the same time, and they threatened not to come into Much unless I apologized, but I didn't apologize, and they came into Much, because in those days, Much was the only game in town.
Oh my God. Okay, this kind of reminds me of when Jarvis Cocker from Pulp stormed the stage when Michael Jackson was giving one of his pretentious, Christ-like productions or whatever that he would do. It's just these artists, these musicians, these artists who take themselves oh so seriously. We need an Ed the Sock to satirize this and knock them down and help us realize how much stinking bullshit this all is.
The thing is that the music scene now it's so cartoonish on its own.
Right.
How do you satirize
you can't parody something
Nicki Minaj when she's already satirizing so many things in her video? Her videos are aware of what they are. So how do you make fun of that?
Right.
It's...
You ever see Ed, you ever watch the HBO show Veep with Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
I watched it for a couple seasons till it grated on my nerves.
Okay. So I thought it was a pretty good show. But what happened was Donald Trump got elected president, and all of a sudden you couldn't do what Veep was doing, which is sending up the ridiculous White House stuff, because reality was more ridiculous. So what do you do? It's the same story there with...
well, it's true. I mean, it's very difficult for comedians these days who do topical stuff, because how do you... The idea is you take things that people don't think about and you point out the absurdity that we skip over all the time. The problem is truth, reality, news today is so absurd on its own then how do you make the absurd absurd?
Right.
All you can do really is point out the obvious.
Right.
And that's just pointing out the obvious, and that's not the soul of comedy.
What I think is obvious, Ed, is that you're a talented mofo, a sharp as a tack sock, and I can't wait to listen to you doing these overnights on the Rock 94. Now,
By the way, I also got a podcast.
Tell me everything you got, and then
Ed
we'll
and
finish
Red's
up with the Rock.
podcast with Leanna Kay.
Okay.
Okay, you can find that online, Ed and Red's podcast. And maybe doing a podcast coming up called The Late Great Ed the Sock, where I try to reconnect with some of the artists I talked to in the past. And I'm on Twitter at Ed the Sock, edthesock.official on Facebook, Ed_the_sock on Instagram and TikTok, but screw TikTok. I think I'm gonna just I don't think that's my neighborhood.
I'm with you. I feel too old to even install TikTok on my phone. So
well, it's a massive security risk, I understand. So don't.
Oh, you talked me out of it. So, but this new overnight show on the Rock 94.9. Why doesn't the marketing department, and maybe this is Steve McCauley's department or somebody there, but why don't they rebrand it overnights as the Sock 94.9?
Who knows? Maybe they will. We've only been on the air a few weeks at this point, and these guys are on it. Like they're not sitting back. There are thoughts. There's planning going on. Like I said, they got me a billboard. First billboard I've had bus shelter ads.
Right.
First billboard
Good.
I ever had. And like I said, these people they're on it. Like they're sharp. And I'm just waiting for it all to turn to shit.
Hope that never happens. Ed, thanks for returning to Toronto, Mike. This won't be your last appearance.
All night show, 92.9.
Wait, no, 94.9.
94.9. What is it? 92.
That's another show completely.
All night show, 94.9. The Rock. Tuesdays through Saturdays, aka Wednesday through Sunday, because it's midnight. You can call 855-432-7625, which is SOCK, or text. I have relationships now with these people who are just lonely at night, and they need someone to talk to.
I love
it. And I get to know these people who are doing certain jobs. Like it's quite rewarding.
And that brings us to the end of our 1266th show. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Toronto Mike. Ed is at Ed the Sock. Our friends at Great Lakes Brewery are at Great Lakes Beer. Palma Pasta is at Palma Pasta. Moneris is at Moneris. Recycle My Electronics are at EPRA_Canada. The Moment Lab are at The Moment Lab. And Ridley Funeral Home are at Ridley FH. See you all tomorrow when my special guest is Rita DeMontis, who left the Toronto Sun after 47 years.